The Crypto Fear and Greed Index is up to 22, up from 16 yesterday after having a very, very nice run. The altcoin index is reading at 35, just above the 25 marker for the Bitcoin season. The MMRI is down slightly, just below 250, sitting at 249, still in the high-risk category, and has been trading in this same plateau for quite some time, going all the way back into September. And with yesterday's run still continuing into today, we're seeing a lot of green on the daily, seeing quite a bit of green on the weekly as well, with Telcoin up 17.8%, with Quant up 14.8%. The monthly is showing quite a few big gainers, with Telcoin up 108%, XMR still up 16.8%, Quant up 32.6%, WLFI up 37.1%. And taking a look at the top 1,000 market cap, we're finally seeing some green, with the 101 through 200 rank category being up 0.89%. It's not much, but we'll take it. And with the 1 through 100 being the least amount of losses, resting at 0.16%. And if you've been holding precious metals for the last few months, this is your portfolio on precious metals. Ooh, looking good. And if you've been holding crypto for the last couple of months, And as always, this is not financial advice and is nothing less than the rantings and ravings of a man who, even in his middle age, insists on wearing punk rock band t-shirts. But all in all, it hasn't been that bad of a trading day. The indices are up just slightly. The dollar is down just slightly. Volatility up 3%. Gold is up just slightly. Silver is still continuing to run pretty decent, sitting at $58.46. Platinum is up about 1.67%. Even copper has gained 2.88%. Oil still lagging but catching a slight bid. Bitcoin's up about 2%, BNB about 3.88%, XRP about 2.25%, Stellar about 1.2%, Algo up about 3.16%, HBAR 1.32%, Solana up 2.8%, ADA up 3.44%, Quant's down in the red, XDC's also in the red, Telcoin still continuing to run very nicely, which I am still continuing to accumulate each day, up 8.82% on the day. And one of my other picks, IOST, absolutely got its ass handed to it today, down 19%. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I haven't had time to dig into it, but that's not looking very good. And MSTR is finally catching a little bit of a bid here, up 3.89%. But I still think that strategy is in a lot of trouble. Unless Bitcoin really starts to gain again, old Michael Saylor must be sweating bullets right now. But do me a favor and hit that like button really quick before we get started. I'd really appreciate it. Now jumping over and taking a look at ADA. This is a crypto that I haven't covered for a while, but I am going to start parsing out the ISO 222 tokens and covering them on a regular basis. We can see that during the Trump pump, ADA pushed up to this point right here and has since been trading within this well-defined channel. Price traded down in a three-wave move, back up in a three-way move, and is now trading down in a five-wave move, which consists of an A, B, C to the downside. We are now trading within the fifth leg of that subwave, isolated down here in this tertiary potential fifth wave, but we'll get into that here in just a minute. We can see that when the price was pushing down at these lows, it was pushing into this bullish fair value gap on the weekly chart. Price wicked down to the top right here, where this green arrow is sitting, wicked down once again right here, and a third time here. It then wicked completely through it right here during the flash crash on October 10th. But keep in mind, this is the weekly chart. Price then pushed down through it, coming down to this secondary bullish fair value gap on the daily, which is a little bit smaller, resting at the bottom of this one. And in doing so, this candle wicked down perfectly to the 1.272 Fibonacci. We can also see that the price is currently exhibiting a bullish hidden divergence on the weekly. We can see it right here on the indicator, coming down to this point here. But after setting the low point on the price, we can see that this candle 2 weeks later actually wicked down below that low, which is a downward push. And if we come here to the indicator, we can see that the momentum is pushing upwards. So it has also formed a small, strong bullish divergence between these two candles, which explains why we've seen this push upward, at least with this particular crypto. As strong hidden bullish divergences tend to be more powerful than bullish hidden divergences do. We can also see down here with the indicator that the blue line is still resting below the white horizontal line, but is getting closer to this yellow line on the CCI. What we want to see is this blue line crossing over this yellow line. Because if you look back, you'll see that when these crossovers occur, we generally see decent moves to the upside. That doesn't necessarily mean the ADA is going to break out to the moon, but that once this occurs, it's likely that we'll see a push moving to the upside. But dropping down to the daily chart, we see the same thing that I've been talking about in quite a few cryptos that I've been covering lately, with price currently trading within this secondary fifth wave to the downside. We also have a tertiary 5-wave move to the downside. And as I've talked about in some of my previous videos, it looks to me like this fifth wave has yet to be completed. Even though we recently came down and touched the 1.272 fib nearly perfectly, it's not uncommon for the price to come down to the 1.382. Now with price currently trading at 45 cents, coming down to this 1.382 would mean that the price would lose about 1/3 of its value in order to do so. But there's certainly no guarantee that it is going to come down to this level. But that's certainly something that I'm going to be watching for, because it just doesn't look like it's complete to me. And I've seen this same pattern in quite a few different cryptos. So I will be looking for the potential for this fifth wave to be filled out. Which means that if that is the case, we very well could see one more big push to the downside before this pattern is complete and moves on to another pattern. And the other thing is, depending on where this ends, it could negate this bullish hidden divergence completely if price moves below this previous low right here. So this will definitely be something to watch, something we'll want to keep an eye on. But if price does come up to this area here where the wave 1 termination is on this tertiary wave, pushing past that point, then that would also invalidate this 5-wave move to the downside, so we would have to come back and take another look at this. But until that's either crossed here or price breaks down to this point here, I'll be sticking with this particular wave count. If you'd like to support my channel and help to give me the fuel that I need to continue making these videos on YouTube, the easiest way to do that is to join my Patreon. There are 3 paid membership levels that you can choose from. Or if you've been thinking about trading spot, or if you're just looking for a place to swap your cryptos for 0 fees, use my link and sign up for Bitunix. You'll be glad that you did. Now jumping over and taking a look at HBAR, we are seeing a very similar pattern on HBAR that we saw on ADA. We're also seeing the same type of wedge pattern that we were seeing on previous charts, like on Telcoin and Algorand, which seem to be setting up the potential for what could eventually become a very big move to the upside. Keep in mind, this is also on the weekly chart, just like on ADA. During the Trump election pump, price moved up here, hitting a 5-wave move to the upside to this point right here. Price has since traded down with a 3-wave move down, a 3-wave move to the upside, and just like ADA is working on a 5-wave move to the downside, which consists of an ABC primary wave. And just like ADA, it is also forming a tertiary 5-wave move to the downside that is very similar to what we were seeing on ADA. During the A-wave termination, price pushed down and bounced off of this bullish fair value gap right here on the weekly chart. Price rebounded, was promptly rejected at the equilibrium line, which is the green line resting in the center of the equilibrium zone, before dropping back down and bouncing off it again. This time, price broke through the equilibrium zone and was rejected off of this bearish SIBI on the weekly chart, pushing back down through, forming the C leg of this ABC correction, during which price wicked down through this bullish fair value gap, as we can see right here, just like it did on ADA, and has since bounced off of it once again in this area right here, which happens to be the second point of the bullish hidden divergence, which we can see down here on the indicator as well. Unlike ADA, the second candle that pushed down did not go lower than this point right here, which ends the bullish hidden divergence, instead being slightly above it. So it is varying from ADA in that regard, as the indicator is also pushing upward from that point. In this particular case, when price pushed down here, it only hit the number 1 Fibonacci, which is also very common. And as you can see here, it's very common to go from the 1.0 fib to the 1.272, even down as deep as the 1.68, just depending on which type of ABC pattern is actually being formed, whether it's a zigzag, a flat, or an expanded flat. So the number to watch for is basically between the number 1 fib down to the 1.618. But in this case, we can see that it came down to the number 1 fib. And zooming in even further, we can see the secondary wave 5 here in yellow, with this tertiary 5 wave move to the downside right here. And just like ADA, it looks like the wave 4 termination is either in or is about to be in, as this looks to be a 3-wave move, which means that we still have a push to the downside to complete this tertiary 5th wave. And in doing so, could potentially bring it down to the 1.272 fib if it's got enough of a push. But looking at this chart, the price has been trading within this secondary channel right here for quite some time, having only broken below it during the flash crash on October 10th. So there is a good chance that it could hold at this bottom trend line. But if it does punch through this bullish fair value gap on the weekly, the next target would be that 1.272 Fibonacci level, potentially even the bottom trend line in this area here. But if that was the case, it would be pretty destructive for price because it's currently trading between 14 and 15 cents. And if it pushed down to this 1.272, that would essentially cut the price in half. So that's definitely something we want to watch for. Now, just like ADA and just like the other cryptos that I've been covering that are exhibiting this 5th wave, or in one form or another, an additional push to the downside that still looks to need to be completed before any meaningful move to the upside, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen that way. But this is definitely something to watch. In regard to HBAR, I would be watching this low right here to be possibly taken out. Because if price does correct down, takes out this low, that could mean that we are in fact going to see this wave 5 push lower. And also, keep your eye on this previous low here from the flash crash, because if it does push beyond this low, it will negate this bullish hidden divergence. But when jumping back over to the weekly, we are also seeing the exact same thing on the indicator on the CCI that we were seeing on ADA, and we are also seeing on a whole host of other cryptocurrencies where the blue line is coming out of this area below the horizontal white line, and at some point will eventually be crossing over the yellow line, which could give us a decent move to the upside. And if we can get up above this upper trend line, breaking through the equilibrium zone, we could see a substantial move. Because just like I pointed out on the ADA chart, we can see the same thing here with the blue line crossing over the yellow line and the move that came as a result. We can also see it here during the Trump election pump, which led to an absolutely explosive move to the upside. And even with this consolidation here below the wave 3 termination, creating this triangle, we still saw a push upward on a wave 5 taking out that previous high. So all in all, there's quite a bit to watch out for throughout the crypto market, but many of the ISO 222 tokens are all exhibiting very similar patterns to what we're seeing in HBAR, as well as in ADA, as well as on Algorand, and a couple of others that I'll be covering shortly in upcoming videos. But it does appear at some point, once we see how this ending is going to play out and where it's going to end up and under what circumstances, we could be setting up for an absolutely incredible move to the upside. We're starting to see something in the charts now that is really giving us the potential for that type of a move. Now, whether or not that's going to take us to the moon or whether or not it's going to take us just up to this range and continue consolidating remains to be seen. But we have definitely seen quite a bit of consolidation since hitting this high from the Trump election pump, with HBAR trading down to this low during the flash crash, which was basically a 79% correction. And at the current price, it has dropped 63.77% from that high. And jumping back over to ADA really quick, that same drop coming down to the flash crash low was 78%, and at current price, as of what it's trading at right now, as of shooting this video, is 66%. And I know a lot of people are talking about us being in a bear market just recently, but if we're in a bear market, we've been in a bear market for quite some time. It's not something that just recently started. And where prices are currently trading, it seems to me like the potential for a move to the upside is much greater now than it was at any other point since hitting this high. So this will definitely be something to watch.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.